Hello, everyone, and welcome to the return of the At Odds Pod, where we are back for the Cheltenham Festival. As always, I'm joined by Sam Farley and Sam Boswell, the king of racing, I'll call him this week, because Cheltenham Festival, boys, I'm not sure what it is, but it is, for me, one of the highlights of the sporting calendar. Let's not talk about, horse racing in general, just sport in general in the UK. It is massive, and I am absolutely buzzing for it. Before we dive into it and go into picks and tips and all sorts of conversation around it, obviously, like I said, with Sam Boswell being the expert, Farley, I'll come to you first for your thoughts on the Cheltenham Festival, what it means to you in particular.
It's one of the biggest weeks of the year, sport-wise. I love it. It's one of those that if you're fortunate enough to go to the track, you're going to have an amazing time. But if you're not at the track, you can still have a good time. It might be one of those you either work from an office if you're in a betting industry like we are, and it's cracking vibes in there, or maybe you work from home. You schedule a couple of meetings for the afternoon at really convenient times. That mean for some reason no one can contact you between the hours of 3:30 and 4:30. But yeah, no, it's always good fun, isn't it? And this will be the first year in a long time, bar the COVID year, where we're not having our customary little meetup at the event.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they are the best weeks, Cheltenham weeks. Gone are the days now where I'd work in an office and I'd take a toilet break to watch the first race of the festival. But Boz, I know this is massive for you this week. The amount of work you must have on this week is incredible. So for you to find a bit of time to speak to me and Farley is impressive, to be honest. And I'm happy for that, mate.
You're too kind. It is a busy week. Obviously, working in the betting industry, it's mad. Racing is an area that I tend to lean in and specialise on. So I'll be there for the 4 days in a work capacity. But even if I wasn't there in a work capacity, I'd be doing the Tuesday, Wednesday for sure. Before I worked in this role, when I wasn't in the betting industry, I used to go. It was a bit of a first thing in the diary for my annual leave would be a couple of days at Cheltenham. Sadly, I think for the average fan, the accommodation in particular is really stingy now. It's really expensive. And what we tend to see is a few more people doing day trips, things like that. I know lads that would usually go for all 4 days and they've looked at how much it costs to go and they're going to watch it in Portugal round a pool. There's loads of different ways to enjoy it. And if you are at work, just try and watch the feature race each day because there'd be guaranteed drama in that. Don't have to necessarily even have a bet because it is just such it's an amazing place to go to. It's almost like, when you're a kid, and maybe I shouldn't be advising this, but you used to bunk off school or get out of school early or whatever. It has that kind of vibe because on a Tuesday afternoon, you've got 70,000 people in a muddy field, basically, half of which are roaring home horses that they've been following all year. The other half are on the beer. And it just makes for this very strange kind of fun that I can't. Some people have said it's a bit like going to football. I don't think it is because when you go to football, it's a bit tribalistic. This is just more everyone's on an amazing, but especially the early part of the week. The Friday does get a little bit of a different type of crowd. And I wouldn't be as keen on the Friday to go. 100%, if you're half interested in horse racing, get there the Tuesday or Wednesday. You'll have a great day. And I'm really looking forward to it. It is a huge event. In terms of horse racing, it's the second biggest fixture on ITV behind the Grand National in terms of viewership. It's a great opportunity to get loads of eyes on the sport. There's not as much about the fashion, the food and all that stuff that you get with Royal Ascot, which is interesting enough, but it really is the core part of the jump season. And, for some people, it's been what they've been building to for 9 months.
So we'll go through each day and have a few questions around each day and the horses that you're picking and just a few questions around them too. Usually we'll tease a bet and we'll be like, listen to the end of the pod. We'll get the nap of the day, of the whole festival at the end of the pod. We're not down for teasers here on the Ads Pod, lad, are we? We're not going to tease the listeners. Boz, I want you straight away to come at us with your nap of the festival. Tell us who your best bet is for the whole week.
For the entire week.
Here we go.
It's a little bit tricky, but at the moment, I'm going to go to the Wednesday in a race called the Brown Advisory Novice Chase, which is a race over around 3 miles. and it's for horses going over the bigger fences for their first season, effectively. So they get a period of time where they only tend to race against other horses that are having their first season. There's a horse here called Jerry Colombe, who's trained by Gordon Elliott. A lot of you will be aware of Gordon Elliott, won the Grand National with Tiger Roll. Has a good Cheltenham record as well. Last year was a bit quiet by his standards, but he was kind of rebuilding his team. This year, I think he's got an excellent chance of having 3 or 4 winners at least. Jerry Colombe is a really nice horse. He's unbeaten since joining the stable. He was last seen actually in England at Sandown, running over a shorter distance. He made a couple of mistakes, but you expect that from horses of this age. And what I was really impressed by was how intelligently he dealt with those mistakes. So he got in a little bit tight to a fence, but adjusted his feet well. He moves really nicely. The recent rain's a huge plus for him as well. It's actually been his first go at the trip, but he screams every inch of a chaser, and that's not something that puts me off. I do think this race will cut up to a small field. He's 13-8 at time of recording, the best price. He's going to be my nap of the entire week. That race, actually, I should just mention, comes on the Wednesday because I've got Tuesday's best bets just on the banner there. But the best bet of the week for me would be him if you want a nap of the week.
That one, I've put that in the notepad. That's ready to go. So look, we talked about what bets what horse you love this week. As always, there are some big names out there, big favourites that don't do as well. Can you point us in a direction of the big name horse that you think might be worth laying on the exchange potentially, or is one to, if you're doing your bets, maybe avoid and don't put in any accas?
Yeah, I'm going to break everyone's heart here. This is the cold bookmaker in me coming out. I think Honeysuckle's a bit of a bad price at around 2-1 for the Mares Hurdle. A lot of you may know she was the horse that won the Champion Hurdle under Rachel Blackmore. It was a huge, brilliant story. She previously won a Mares Hurdle at the festival, the race that she's going to contest here. She's unfortunately a bit like all of us. Father Time waits for no horse. She hasn't sparkled as well on her start so far this season. She lost her unbeaten record, which was a bit bruising. And then she didn't really, to my eye, look like the same horse. Now, she isn't an easier race. This isn't the Champion Hurdle. But this year, the Mares Hurdle has huge depth to it. We're likely to probably see Maryse Rock, who won the race last year for Nicky Henderson. She had possible aspirations of going to the Stayers Hurdle against the boys. If she comes back here, I think she's going to be absolutely deadly. You've got Brandy Love, who's a very good horse from Willie Mullins. He also runs Echoes in Rain. And there's a horse I really like each way here called Love Envoy, who the softer it is, the better she'll go for Harry Fry. She won the junior version, if you like, of this race last year, the Mare's Novice. So I think there's a couple of reasons to not like Honeysuckle. One, I think she's past her peak. And two, I think she's got a really strong field against her. It's not like there's just one or two that could conceivably win this race. There's 3 or 4. The Mares Hurdle, actually, to cut a very long story short, is a special place in my heart because the firm that we all used to work for and where we met were the sponsors of it originally when it was first formed. And you'll remember this race. If you don't know much about racing, I'm sure you'll still know this. This was the race where Annie Power fell at the last, with the race in her grasp, and would have cost her. It ranges from 10 million one day to 50 million the next, but it was a significant payout. It was the biggest we'd have ever seen, bar the Frankie Dettori 7 in our recent history. It's a very strange race, this Mares race, and I just have a feeling, unfortunately, sport doesn't always read the script, and it would be lovely for Honeysuckle to go out and retire on a win here, which I think they would do if she won it. I just think this is top level sport. It's not a romantic script to it. As much as we'd love to see it, I'm taking her on.
Okay, well, that is actually on Tuesday, and I think you had that down as your kind of big race for the day on Tuesday.
Yeah.
But I think what we're going to do here is we're going to go through each day. We're going to ask you for your most interesting race, your nap of the day, and also a little long shot each way kind of number that I know there's a lot of our listeners are really interested in, those kind of longer prices. You might be able to land something special. So, take it away, Boz. Guide us through Tuesday.
Yeah, so just on the race of the day, I'm not picking the most important race. I'm picking what I perceive to be the most interesting. Arguably, the most important race today is the Champion Hurdle, which is where the nap comes. Now, you've got a horse here called Constitution Hill, who's not been beaten since he went under rules. He won the Supreme last year, which is the first race on the Tuesday. He didn't just win it, he absolutely shit up. Let's be completely honest here, lads. He was mustard. I absolutely love the horse. I rarely get as wrapped up in hype anymore. A bit more cynical, long in the tooth. I get excited when I see this horse, and nothing can live with him. And all he's really got against him is State Man, who's a very good horse at Willie Mullins, but I don't think he's in the same league. I really don't. He's 1-3, 2-7, that kind of price. I'll be looking for 5 to 7 lengths or more victory, which probably, if I'm having to try and guess this a little bit, 4 to 6. You might get even money on 7.5. That's probably pushing it. If I can get something around 6 lengths or more at 10 to 11, nearly even money, that's my nap, because he's going to absolutely scoot up. He's not just going to win. If you watch his Supreme run against John Bond last year, he won by miles, and John Bond is a very good horse. So that'll be my nap. The long shot. Now, just bear with me, because I've just got to plow back through to pick up. I'll tell you what I'm going to put up for my long shot here. I mentioned the Supreme. That's the race that kicks it off, where you hear that initial big roar, and it's all these Jumps fans and weirdos like me that have spent their year building up to this. We all let out just a little bit of tension, I suppose, of the battle ahead with the bookmakers, and it's a really cool sound, I must say. Not quite like anything else in sport. The Supreme's a really interesting race. So we had a favourite that was actually odds on until he bombed out at the Irish Racing Festival, the Dublin Racing Festival, I should say. He's still 2-1 favourite, Facile Vega. The bookmaker I work for is the worst result in our book because of the amount of people that have been backing him through the summer, autumn, winter, and even now, which surprises me. And the Irish have a great record on here, aside from Nicky Henderson runners. But I actually like a horse called Timoris each way. He's 11-1. Best price I can see at the moment. He's won a couple of races at Sandown. He won't mind the ground getting a bit softer. I think you'll probably get 4 places on the day. I don't think you get more than 4. If you can get 4 places and you can get 10-1 each way, I think he's a knocking shout to finish 3rd or 4th. If he exceeds expectations, he could well win. I'll put him in as an each way shot. But a couple of other things just on the Tuesday in terms of storylines. You've got one of the longest races on the card. In fact, it'd be the longest race on the card, which is the closing race, the National Hunt Chase. That's going to be a very small field and a bit of a war of attrition. You've got the Boodles Handicap, which is young horses in a handicap. Chico's the favourite for that, and it looks like it's been laid out for the race, as a lot of them will have been. The Arkle. I must mention the Arkle. This is John Bond versus El Fabiolo, 2 very good horses taking each other on. I am undecided where I side with in that race, but that'll be probably the best contest of the day if you want an actual out-and-out sort of imagine a head-to-head boxing style fight. That'll be good, but I still think the mare's race will probably deliver the best race of the day.
Love it.
What you mentioned Constitution Hill. What I will say is, and we mention this quite a lot in the pod, make sure you do shop around when it comes to it. I know you both individually work for different bookmakers, but there's likely going to be some special offers on the day of like winning lengths, and there's going to be some bookmaker somewhere that will do like an evens promo on Constitution Hill, you'd imagine too.
One is already out there, Jake, and I can assure you that we'll be looking to do something on the day. Day one is where you just on the offers. Day one is where we kind of all want to get your business for the week, and we haven't lost any money at this point, have we, Farley? So we seem a bit more relaxed about handing it out. If we've had a bad week, you're not going to get anything out of bookmakers on the Friday. So make use of the Tuesday offers.
Exactly. Constitution Hill. What odds do you think the horse goes off at? Because the way I'm seeing it over the last few days, it's just been shortening and shortening and shortening. Will it be 1-3, 1-4, even 1-5 in some places?
So I guess, Jake, the big question would be the liabilities that we've run up by that point. So the Champion Hurdle arrives, 3rd, 4th race on the card. We have the Supreme before. Let's say Facile Vega wins that, having been well backed. Let's say John Bond wins the Arkle for Nicky Henderson. Let's say the favourite wins in the Ultima, which is the handicap beforehand. There's not quite as bad as it looks on paper. I think the bet will probably end up being that everyone gets on will be Nicky Henderson, John Bon, Constitution Hill, and Marie's Rock. And if it looks like these multis and these favourites are winning, we're going to struggle to take him on. We're going to be a bit scaredy cat. I think he goes off 1-4. I think he'll go off a bit shorter than he is because we've got one more stage of confirmation to come in terms of who runs. That's going to trim the field in half. It's not going to take a lot out of his price, but it's going to. I think he'll be 1-4 on the day.
What day was?
Tuesday.
Tuesday, of course. Yeah.
So. Sorry. The confirmation stage. Just to say. So Sunday we'll get confirmation of Tuesday's runners. Monday we get Wednesday, and it's 48 hours before. So yeah, Sunday onwards, that's when you start knowing who's lining up. But I think he goes shorter than he is at the moment. I'd be surprised if he's not 1-4 SP of something like that, especially. But a lot will depend on how the day's gone so far. If we get Facile Vega beaten the first, I think bookmakers will get their tail up a bit.
So that wraps up Tuesday, and with all the winnings that we're going to have from your picks, Boz, we'll move on to day 2 and Wednesday. Your most interesting race today is going to be the Champion Chase, which for me looks like a classic, and I'm just a casual horse racing fan. What do you think is going to happen in this race?
Well, I'm hoping for At Odds Pod viewers, they took my advice back in, I don't know, September, and took a little bit of the 16-1 about Edwardstone, because he's now, 7-4, something like that. He has had a pretty good season. He won the Tingle Creek at Sandown, which is a great race to win in its own right, and a good clash of 2-mile chasers. He then was entered at Ascot in the Clarence House. We lost that race due to weather, and they re-ran it at Cheltenham a week later. I think the rider that day, Tom Cannon, he's not a bad rider, but I think he didn't have the best day at the office, and the horse got beat. And we're talking by a short head by a horse called Editor de G, who runs in the race again. Now, bookmakers clearly think Alan King's horse, Edwardstone, will get the better of him this time, because the horse that beat him is 5-1 and he's 7-4. And what's more curious is there's a horse that won the race last year called Energamine, who was 4th in that race, and he ran really badly, and he's 7-4 co-favourite. But this probably demonstrates the difference between training styles. So Willie Mullins trains Energamine, and clearly he has one target in mind for a lot of his horses, and that's to win at the festival. And bookmakers will never put, realistically, he should be 9-2, really, after the way he ran. But we won't put him out to that price because we know what he can do. And it's a bit weird, isn't it? I guess it's a bit like having a football team that you're willing to forgive getting battered 7-0. It's just quite a topical example. So, yeah, this race just looks brilliant. We've got those 3 in there. It's a really quick race. It's 2 miles over the fences. They go a real clip, but we have seen some mad upsets in this race before. I think Duvan was the shortest price favourite I've ever managed to get beaten. He was 2-9 in this a couple of years ago. It's a really interesting race. I'm really excited by it. If you got the 16s, well done. You're in a great position. You might want to hedge a little bit. But yeah, I'm cheering for Edwardstone. Jerry Colon will be my nap on the day in the Brown Advisory. We've already gone through him. Big fan of him. Just really, really think he's the next big thing. I'm going to try and find, while we're on air, price for next year's Gold Cup already. It's really hard. So I quite like anti-post betting, which is betting well in advance. Unfortunately now, punters aren't very price savvy. As a result, bookmakers get away with putting prices that are pretty poor. I might just see what we can get him for next year's Gold Cup before he runs. You might find someone will do a special to win on the day in next year's Gold Cup. That, to me, is probably where the value could lie, because I just think he'll be a very short price. I'd be staggered if he's not a single-figure price for the following year's Gold Cup. Let me just tell you what he is for next year's Gold Cup, because I reckon the firm that are mad enough to price it already probably got the price up. Let's have a look. See, he's already 14-1 for next year's Gold Cup, which is so skinny. I can't advise taking that. You might get 25s on a double.
Yeah. Wins on Wednesday, though, when he goes down to like 10-1 with some bookies, 8-1 maybe.
You might get 33-1 to win both somewhere. Yeah, that's a little bit frustrating to see it that short already. This is what I mean. It's killing the game. He should be 14-1 after he's won the race on the Wednesday, not before. And don't forget, that's not non-runner, no bet. So if he gets injured, it's too short for really advising a bet. My long shot is I've made sure all the long shots are double figure prices at most bookmakers. That's kind of, they're not like 33-1 shots, but this is a 10-1 shot. So the champion bumper is the closing race on the Wednesday. Just to confuse anyone that's a bit of a casual fan of horse racing, it's a race without any hurdles or jumps. It's a bumper. Fundamentally, these are races that horses start off in before they go jumping. It's not the same as flat racing with stalls that you'll think of through the summer. There's a horse in here. It's a French bred called Chapeau de Soie for Willie Mullins. Willie Mullins has farmed this race for many years. He'll run 6 or 7 in it quite happily. This horse wouldn't be at the top of his pecking order, but he had a huge reputation. He was expected to be the favourite for the bumper. And then he ran a bit like Jake after 7 pints on debut for him. And he was very disappointing, uncontrollable, an absolute beast. The fact that they're still persisting with running him here suggests that he still retains some of that ability they believe he had. He's going to go one. This will be a win-only bet as well, by the way, guys. Don't bother going each way. It is in my each way lucky 15, but I'll talk about that in a minute. He's probably a win-only bet, even though he's a long shot, because I think if he realises that potential, he'll blow these away. If he runs as badly as he does, don't waste having a place part of the bet because he won't feature. It's going to be shit or bust with him, and I'm pretty convinced there's still a horse there. And at 10-1, he's unexposed. I'll take the chance. But yeah, just other bits to mention on the Wednesday. It's kind of obviously a really interesting day, the Wednesday. We kick off with the Ballymore, which is Britain's best chance of having a novice hurdle winner with Hermes Allan for Paul Nicholls. Hopefully that happens because I think it'd be good. Jerry Colombier is in the second race of the day. Coral Cup is one of the most fiercely competed handicaps over 2.5 miles over hurdles. That looks tricky. Champion Chase is the feature race. Cross country, a lot of you remember Tiger Roll would win this before going on to win the festival. Horse that beat him last year in his swan song was Delta Work. He's 6-5 to do that again. And he's also got a stablemate in there, a Galvin at 9-4. Gordon Elliott really dominates the betting in this race, and it'll be one of those two that win it. And then we've got the Grand Annual, which is a bit of a crazy race. And then we close with the bumper that I mentioned. But that rounds off Wednesday. Hopefully, by this point, we're not too far behind, and we might even be ahead.
And it's Ladies' Day too, isn't it, Wednesday? Ladies' Day on Wednesday, so the atmosphere.
They've actually rebranded it as Festival Wednesday.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm not. Listen, I don't mind what they call it, to be perfectly honest. It doesn't make any difference to me. It is always traditionally the day that the girls come dressed up, make a real effort. I don't want that element of racing to go, but I think perhaps it was always a bit of a condescending thing to be like, here's the day you can all turn up in your dresses. When loads of women enjoy jumps racing, it's not quite the same as the flat vibe in the summer. So yeah, it is what it is, and good luck to them. It's how you market something. To me, the horse racing is what we should be taking centre stage because it is that good.
Spoken like a proper horse nose. All right, first question from me here. First up, all week we're going to hear about the ground. It's one of those things you hear about. Certainly when I first started getting into racing, I didn't have the foggiest what's going on. So why don't you give our listeners a bit of a guide to what the weather means and how that will impact the horses?
So yeah, effectively it's known as the going. You'll see it probably listed as in the paper or on the telly. They'll say, here's the going report, the going update. And there's a stick that the clerk of the course puts in and it registers a number, basically. And if you're boring enough like me to have an interest in that, it's fine. What you really want to be looking at is what the jockeys say after the first race, really, because that's when we get the true indication of what the ground's like to ride on. There'll be a description. At the moment, it's soft, good to soft in places. And I guess what you have to correlate that with is it's a bit like, the best comparison I can make is tennis players, right? So you'll get various tennis players. So you'll get someone like Nadal was very good on every surface, but he excelled on clay. Then you'll get other players that cannot play on anything but hard courts or grass courts. And then you'll get some people like, your Federers that just win on everything, and it doesn't matter what they play on, kind of thing. If that's a bad analogy, apologies. My tennis wouldn't be the strongest sport, but my point is that some horses will go on anything, but most horses will have a preference. The biggest thing I always take out of this is, let's say you've got a horse that's won on soft ground, and then it's run on good ground and run really badly. Well, the suggestion will probably be the trainer's kept it away from good ground after that, and it wants that ease in the ground. Very good horses will run on anything and probably win on anything, but it is hard, and I guess it's like it's marginal calls, right? And it's not the same as, can Messi do it on a cold night in Stoke? It's more, what's the most effective surface for that horse? I would have going in the top 3 things I would look at for when I'm backing a horse. What that also means is, given we are now quite close to the start, effectively, the festival, you might as well wait now to see what the going is going to do. You're not going to nick a price now, probably. So I would just keep your eyes peeled and see what the ground's going to do. But it's an important factor, Sam, and I do think it's something that people need to be really aware of.
I like it. Well, hopefully that's cleared some things up for some people listening. We've actually got another question here that has come from one of our viewers, from Griff, who actually, it's 2 questions in one. That's very nice of him. First of all, thoughts on changes to the whip rules, and secondly, second part of that is also your thoughts on a potential move to a 5-day festival, with the rumoured sort of Saturday appearing at some point potentially.
Spend all day talking about the whip. The long and short of it is, the rules have been brought out at the wrong time. I don't think anyone minds reviewing and changing them, but it's quite bizarre to have them 2 weeks before the festival basically start. Imagine a very significant change in football at the quarter-final stage of a World Cup or an FA Cup, or halfway through a season, just before the run-in. It's just really strange. I don't like them. I think jockeys should be trusted. The whip itself, if you ever get your hands on one, let someone hit you with it on your backside, and bear in mind you won't have the same amount of flesh as a horse. It won't hurt. It's a device that's designed to instill a reaction to a horse because of the sensation and the whooshing. It's not, you can batter a horse all you want, it doesn't make it run any faster. That's not the purpose of the aid. It's also a very important key thing for safety for jockeys. If you want to, I wouldn't bet on whipless racing, if I'm honest. It wouldn't work. You can go and see what that looks like. I think Sweden has it. Wouldn't appeal to me. It sounds worse than it is. I think a lot of people get the old 50 Shades of Grey in their head, and I can assure you, it's not. It's not that. It's not that bad. It really isn't. And if you get the opportunity to go racing now, I think the BHA have got stands where you can go and feel what the jockey's lightweight whip feels like. A huge amount of regulation of what it can be. It's not, in the olden days, I definitely think they were pretty grim. These things are effectively a piece of sports equipment. They're not designed to inflict pain. I could talk about it all day. It's been poorly executed, but look, we are where we are. I think there's a few bookies that are priced at 5-2 for a disqualification at the festival. Bookmakers will be paying first past the post. The disqualifications won't happen there and then. Effectively, they'll be reviewed. It could be a storyline at the festival that we're all aware, as we clap a horse coming back in, that a jockey's gone way over the limit and going to get the ban, and therefore the race could be lost. Pretty unedifying. There's no VAR. It's a bit of a week-long wait. So good luck with that, horse racing. The 5-day festival, been quashed for now. Jockey Club came out and actually listened to feedback from fans, which I think was really good. 5th day wasn't popular. It's already expensive enough to try and do the week or a couple of days. A Saturday would be competing. The thing that makes the festival special is it's a bit like that mentality of, you're off work, you're bunking off school. It's a Tuesday, it's a Wednesday, it's a Thursday. You should be at your office. You're not. Yeah. You're in a field with your mate, showering home horses. Like, it's a holiday. It's a treat, and you can go racing any Saturday. And I know people say, "Well, what's so different about that?" It is just something different. I can't explain it. Also, it'd be competing for airtime with Premier League football, the Six Nations. It loses that appeal. And some people think we're crackers in racing, that our biggest day, our biggest week doesn't run, say, Thursday to Sunday, because that's when more people would go. But 65,000 people make the effort every Tuesday, Wednesday to go.
It's full enough as well.
Yeah, and someone said to me, "Well, what about school teachers?" And listen, great gig that, hardworking people. It's a shame they can't go, but everyone else can just take annual leave. If it means that much to you, you will go.
That's not what you said off air, boss.
Yeah,
I'm joking.
yeah, I don't really fancy the teaching community coming after me, but I get it. There's also an awful lot of good racing on Saturdays. We have a Royal Ascot Saturday. It doesn't need to be diluted any further. We've got to remember, just before my time in racing, it was a 3-day festival. People didn't like it going to 4. It's diluted enough. We have 28 races. No more.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, Farley. When I did first do the intro to this pod, I never thought I'd have a Sam Boswell 50 Shades of Grey reference at some point in his answers. We'll move to Thursday now, and Thursday is a great day. I love Thursday. Thursday is usually a day I do go to the festival. Thursday is a day we meet up at the festival usually, and there's some big races on this day. Now, your most interesting race, Boz, for this day is the Stayers Hurdle. That's not the feature race of the day, is it?
Well, it is, but it sort of competes with the Ryanair. In theory, it is the feature race, but the Ryanair is also probably similar in standing, I suppose, these days. It depends. The interesting thing about this race this year, the Stayers, that is how competitive it is. So in years gone by, we'd have a red hot favourite, the likes of Big Bucks, who'd probably touch even money. I'd wander down to the betting ring, shop around, and just try and get as much on as I could at even money. He'd win, and I'd think the game's easy. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way after that point, but it's a really competitive heat here. You've got a 2-time champion in Flooring Porter, who's 6-1. You've got a horse called Home by the Lee that's beaten him twice this season at 6-1. Potentially, Marie's Rock could come here and get an allowance because she's a female horse, a mare against the geldings. That's what we call boy horses, for want of a better term. Tia Poo's 4-1 for Gordon Elliott. More rain that falls, that will suit him. And then we've got a horse trained by the interesting enigma that is Charles Burns, the 3-1 favourite, Blazing Cow, who has had a few issues, but apparently is okay. We've got 2 French horses, but the one to mention is Gold Tweet, who won on Trials Day, 12-1, who's been supplemented to run in the race. Paisley Park, famous for many reasons, but he's got this wonderful owner, a guy called Andrew Gemmell, who's a blind chap who's a massive racing fan, and his story has just been brilliant to watch. He's probably a bit long in the tooth now, but if he could run into a place, that'd be fantastic. So that's probably why the Stayers Hurdle is such a race that people are going to enjoy this year, I think, because it is so competitive. In comparison to the Ryanair, which Shishkin's 4-5, and is my nap on the day. He will be, for me, a horse that I've got a huge amount of time for. He looked absolutely back to his best last time out, romping home at Ascot. This comes quite quickly, but his trainer's a genius in Nicky Henderson. This will be a small field as well, and I think he's just going to, if he jumps, he wins for me. But there are a few people out there trying to knock him. I think he's just too classy for this field. He wouldn't want too much more rain. That would be the only thing I'd be a wee bit concerned about. But he'll be fine at the trip. And, I think he wins the Ryanair.
Long shot for the Thursday?
Yeah, so we're going to go to the Mare's Novice. This has a warm favourite in a UK-based horse called Lucida for Nicky Henderson. She's 13-8. She's done nothing wrong. But there's a horse that I think on form from the UK is probably fairly close to that level, maybe slightly below it, but she's got more to come in the tank. She's a horse called You Wear It Well. If the current second favourite for the Ballymore wins, she'll shorten up because she was second to that horse at Christmas in the Challow Hurdle. That race has worked out quite well. She won at Sandown last time out on soft ground, so any rain's not a problem. She'll go further. The trainer, Jamie Snowden's had a festival winner before, but I'd say this is probably the best horse he's had on his hands over hurdles for a while. And I really, really like her profile for the race. I think she'll improve with age. She could go a bit further, but the rain will definitely bring it into her over this 2-mile trip. Of course, she runs on the new course will definitely suit her as well. And I think she'll be involved at the finish. 10-1 should be my each way bet.
Nice.
I like that. So look, there's there's something I kind of want to ask you guys, and I'll kind of go through this first. But ultimately, what advice do we have for our viewers about Cheltenham? It can be this race going experience. It can be the betting experience. I'm going to give you 2 seconds to think about your answers to this. I'm going to go through 3 things that I think you should make sure you do for Cheltenham. First and foremost, abuse those welcome offers with the bookies. My company probably don't want to hear that. I'm sure none of your companies, well, I'm sure Sam's company definitely doesn't want to hear that.
What a scab, Farley.
But ultimately, as a customer, this is one day of the year where you can actually get some good value. I say that this year, I think we've seen less value than we've ever seen before. Particularly on the big names, used to always have brilliant offers on the first race of the day, and they've absolutely embarrassed themselves with their offer this year. We won't mention who they are.
I couldn't disagree more. It's customer segmentation, Farley. It's the future. It's going to have to be that way.
In a non-related thing, obviously look up at the sky and see what the weather's like. And if it's raining, if it's comfortable, whatever it is, make sure you are wearing comfortable shoes. You're on your feet a long time all day. So obviously dress up nicely, but try and be comfortable as well, because your feet will hurt at the end of the day. That's just a fact. And number 3, and I think this is the most important, I think it's something I know you guys would echo as well. Do not do your bollocks. Go into it with a set amount that you are happy to lose. Do not go over that. Whether you have to regiment that to, I'm going to do £5 a race, work that out through the week across all 28 races, stick to that. However you want to do it, go into the week with a number in your head that you're not too unhappy to lose for the entertainment. And please do not go above that, because it's not worth it and can get yourself into a little bit of a hole. So those are my 3. Jake, why don't you guide us through yours?
Yeah, mine is just to attend the festival. If you are a sports fan, I think this really should be like a bucket list kind of event, really. Just at one point in your life, go to Cheltenham, even if it's for a day, because it is just class. It's one of the only days where, especially with my friend group, you're all there for the same reason. I know we spoke a little bit about football being a bit tribalist and people supporting different clubs and things like that, but you're all there for the same reason. It feels like just a massive event when you go. So yeah, my main advice is just to attend it for one of the days, because it's just absolutely class. Oh, and after the event, get the bus back into Cheltenham Town Centre, because that walk after you've had a few drinks, it's longer than you think, definitely. So that'll be my other piece of advice.
Right, my turn. Echo what the boys have said so far. Sam's point, probably the most salient. It's 28 races. You don't have to bet in every race. For example, I won't have a bet in the Fox Hunters because I don't know anything I don't follow that particular part of horse racing particularly well. I can sit it out quite comfortably and enjoy it for what it is. Don't have to bet. Don't chase. Have yourself. Don't go all in on the first race, because then you're just going to feel uncomfortable for the rest of it. It's a lesson older than time. And people say, you're a bit boring trying to budget. No, because you just don't want to get too carried away and do the lot, because everyone's done it at some stage. So don't do it, especially at Cheltenham. You want to be able to enjoy it. It's a long week. Don't get too carried away by everything that's going on elsewhere. I know there's plenty of football that week as well, and it's quite tempting to just, put the next day's pot on someone in the Europa League. But, listen, football's a very hard sport in itself to try and get right. So just enjoy it for what it is. If you're going, take a coat, for God's sake. It's not that easy to find cover. I'm lucky enough to have a media badge, and I still look like a drowned wet rat on the Wednesday last year. It's hard. There's not enough space for 65,000 people to go indoors. Take a good coat, take a hood, have a decent breakfast before you get there, unless you want to spend a fortune on food. If you're lucky enough to be catered, enjoy it. But crikey, you're looking at a lot for a pizza. Have a full English. At least that way you're all right through the day. If you can, try and get to the pre-parade ring, which is over the far side of the course. The parade ring is great for seeing the horses, but the pre-parade, you can get a little bit closer and it's a bit more intimate. And you don't have all the owners and trainers stood around the horses. You'll see them just with the lads and lasses and maybe the trainer. You can actually get a good look at them. Even if you don't know what you're looking at, it's just a really good way of building into the build-up. And then you can go and get a better place out the front to watch the horses. enjoy it for what it is, a great day out. If you go with mates and you're having a few beers, do that. Don't live in the Guinness Village for all 6 races. Go and watch one from somewhere else. That's my advice, because look at Farley smirking. He's a man that has turned up and lived in the Guinness Village for the whole day, aren't you, Farley?
No, I don't like the Guinness Village. It's too busy for me. It does my head in.
I've been there.
30,000 people.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, 30,000 people disagree, but it is what it is, Cheltenham. And like, listen to opinions, but if you fancy a horse, just back it. Everything's trying at Cheltenham. Everything's off for its life. Don't be afraid. Here's another bit of advice. Don't be afraid to take a favourite on there. You know, we've had COVID year, there was an 80-1 SP winner. And the way that the betting returns are now, the outsiders are coming in at bigger prices when they land. The favourites are probably a little bit shorter, but with 80 to 1, Jeff Kidder would have been 80 to 1, I think. SP probably touched 3 figures at some point. We've had 50 to 1 winners. Like, don't feel like you have to back Fabs all the time. Like, you can have a go on something at a price, and you know it will probably give you a run for its money. And you can listen to tipsters, you can listen to previews, but they're not gospel. Like, we're all sat here working for bookmakers, or no one's sat at a desert island. If someone's doing a Cheltenham preview from a desert island, listen to their tips more than anyone else's. But my point still stands. You know, if you can read form and get involved, it can be more satisfying to find your own winner than just copy something else.
Boz, I love that, and I absolutely love your tip of the pre-parade ring. I think nipping down there is always good, and I don't know anything about these horses when I see them, but sometimes you can just look at a horse, almost like when you see football teams come out of the tunnel, and you kind of see it's weird. I don't know what I'm looking for, but I can see that I see the horses on it, and I like that. And look, even if it's a load of bollocks, and I'm just imagining this, it kind of really adds to the day that if it wins and you think you've kind of got a little
exactly,
edge there,
and that's part of the fun. And also, like, you might look at a horse and I look at horses all the time. Do I really know what I'm looking at? Unless you're Ken Pitterson or someone like that who does it for a living, I don't think you're going to be able to tell that much, because they're all going to be tuned up for it. But if it makes you feel better about having a small flutter, go for it.
Lovely. All right, well, let's crack on now to Friday. So, Boz, I need your most interesting race. I'm pretty sure I can guess what that will be. I need your nap of the day, and I do need that long shot each way. Give it to me, Boz.
We are going to go for the Gold Cup, most interesting race of the day. It's the Blue Ribbon Chase event. Think of it as the FA Cup final, Champions League final. People say to me, "Oh, isn't the Grand National the biggest race?" For racing people, the Gold Cup is what people breed a horse for, to win over jumps. It's what they want to win. The prestige of it probably outweighs the National a little bit within the sport. Externally, the Grand National is known more. There's not many that have done the double, but the horse I like in it actually is going to try and do that this year. He won last year's Grand National, Noble Yates. It has been done in the same year. I think you've got to go back to Golden Miller that did it, probably going way back. To do it in the same season is hard. This race is just an absolute... It's 3 miles 3 round Cheltenham. Don't be afraid to back an outsider. We've seen 33 to 1 winners of this race in recent years. Aplutab was an absolutely fantastic winner of it last year, but has had a real car crash of a season so far. Nothing's gone right, but they think he's well at home. Manila Endo, who's won the race previously, he's a 20 to 1 shot. Again, not probably had ideal preparation, but you can't rule him out. At the front of the betting is a young pretender in Galloping Deschamps, who was all set to win at the festival last year in his novice race before coming down dramatically at the final fence. But he's been foot perfect so far this year. So there's so many plots and subplots. You've got Brave Man's Game running for Paul Nicholls, who used to win this race year in, year out with the likes of Denman, Corto, Star. It all builds to a brilliant crescendo on the Friday. And this race kind of is the peak of it for me. I really like Noble Yates. He was third last time out at Cheltenham. I think he was entitled to come on for that run. He's won on heavy ground. He's won a national. He'll stay. He'll get the trip. He jumps well enough. I wouldn't mind him jumping slightly better, which might be an odd thing to say for a national winner, but I think there's plenty of miles on the clock yet with him. Emmett Mullins is a very shrewd trainer, and at 8 to 1, he's going to be my selection for the race and my long shot of the day as well. My nap comes in the opening race. It's a horse called Lossiemouth, who represents Willie Mullins, Rich Ritchie, probably Paul Townend as well. the Triumph Hurdle is a race exclusively for 3-year-olds, very young, well, 4-year-olds now, but effectively they're in their first year of jumping. Tend to be bred for the flat, so it's quite a speedy race. This horse should have won at the Dublin Racing Festival, was given probably one of the worst rides you'll ever see. Paul Townend got a lot of stick for it. I think he comes back and gets redemption here. Lossy Mouse around 15-8. Blood Destiny, the stablemate, is similar sort of price, but I'm all over Lossy Mouth. Providing she's recovered from the Dublin Racing Festival, I think she will win the race, and pretty convincing style as well. Massive fan of her. And that rounds off the Friday.
I love that, because I'm one of the muggy punters who uses the offers around different bookies where you can bet on the first race, get money back as cash, second, third, fourth, blah, blah, blah. So to have your nap of the day in that first race on the Friday is a bit of me, Boz. I love that. Before we do wrap up, I'll ask you a question. If you've got any other tips around the festival, if there's any sort of specials or any markets that we may miss as like usual punters and casual punters, because there are different events through the week, like the Presbury Cup. Obviously, you mentioned a bet before around a disqualification at 5-2 during the week, which wasn't a tip, but that was something.
No, that's definitely something I backed, Jake. So I guess
it's something you backed, yeah. Nice. So okay.
I think we put that up.
Yeah. Anything that you may think looks maybe like a bet that we might have missed?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it, and annoyingly, I think it's gone before I even managed to get on it. There's a lot of Willie Mullins to have over 10 winners. I don't think you'll have quite that good a year this year. I can't find the unders line, unfortunately, which is a little bit of a shame. I was looking for a bet for number of what was the bet I was looking for? Oh, number of winning favourites.
Right.
Just going to have a quick search for that, because it was 5-6, 10 or more, which looked a huge price. Number of winning. While I'm doing that, 5-2 for disqualification. I think it's a bit of a grim bet, but I'll probably have it.
It's something that could happen, especially like you say with the new rules coming into place.
Yeah, I'm really annoyed I can't find this bet now, but it may well have gone because it was probably the wrong price. But there's a fair few to like. Let me just check on the odds comparison sites, because they have a few specials listed. It's a really good week to have a look at stuff. The Presbury Cup will go to Ireland. It's just a case of how far. They're 1-12, which is you can bet on the winning score. Wouldn't appeal to me particularly. Biggest winning SP, I'd be quite tempted to back the. Let me just check the price here. 50-66 to 1 is 7-4 best price. I think there'll be a 33 to 40s is 13-8. I think you might get a 50 to 1 winner, so I'd probably take the 7-4 there. You've got 28 shots at it. I know it's not the most exciting bet at the prices. I'm looking for the handicap to see if there's owners have the most winners. This is quite an interesting market. So the respective colours you see belong to certain owners. JP McManus in the green and gold hoops is 4-9 favourite. Probably, I would say that's a bet if you could multi it, but I wouldn't be getting too steamed in at 4-9. Let's be honest, we're not the types that are probably going to be able to do that. But there's a few interesting ones. I tell you a bet I have had at 9s and it's now 8s, which. Listen, it's not me moving the market, but Nicky Henderson to be top trainer. He could have a very good first day. He's been top trainer previously. He's 8-1. I think that's a bet for the week. If you get a good start with him, you might be looking over your shoulder as Mullins goes on through the week, because he's 1-8, but I think it could be a tradable bet. So I'll take the 8-1 on Nicky Henderson to be top trainer.
Nice. Across the whole week then, I want something that's just the muggiest bet that you can possibly give me. Something that I can sit here now and just stick like £2 on, £2.50, see me through the week, give me some sort of acca that I can just be like, here we go.
Okay.
Give us something that's going to win, boss. Come on.
How does an 85 to 1 acca sound? And you can go each way on this as well, because if the place line...
Music to my ears. How about you, Farley?
I need it. I need it in my life.
We're going to start with an easy leg on the Tuesday. Constitution Hill to win the champion hurdle, 1 to 3, tick. Next, it's going to be my Nap, Jerry Colombier on the Wednesday. He's around 13 to 8. Delta Work to win the cross country. I'm fairly confident he'll be in the first two, just if his stablemate can beat him. He's a favourite. Mighty Potter, he'll win his race over 2.5 miles, I'm fairly sure. I don't think there'll be a lot in that race to take him on. Then you've got Shishkin in the Ryanair on the Thursday. And then we end it with, I think, maybe the hardest leg, Lossiemouth to win the Triumph Hurdle. That's all around 85 to 1. It's a bit of fun, isn't it? What I would suggest is, it's not certain to win, but we're putting quite a few good chances together. Listen, Annie Power fell when she was a price that she was so short and she should have won. Anything can happen at Cheltenham. For those of you that like a little bit of a sneakier bet, I've tried to pull together a long shot, lucky 15, one horse each day. We're going to go for this Timorous for the Supreme, about 11 to 1, 10 to 1. Chapeau de Soy for the champion bumper, 10 to 1 on the Wednesday, the last race. Thursday, We Wear It Well. She wears it well. No, sorry, I'm getting my Wears It Wells muddled up. You Wear It Well. There we go. Oh, got that. There is a She Wears It Well, just to confuse things. In the Mayor's Novice, she's a 10 to 1 shot. And then the final leg, I was a little bit undecided what to put up, but I'm going for Hunter's Yarn in the County Hurdle, a 9 to 1 shot, also in the Supreme. That's your each way lucky 15. The straight acca on that is 14,000 to 1, basically.
Oh.
We're going for the straight acca, if I'm honest, lads. Sorry, going for the lucky 15 on those four. That hopefully the place returns alone on that would be half decent if we can get all four placed. But yeah, just something for fun. Don't be afraid to have your own tips. Ignore what the so-called experts say. There's a reason we all have to work for a living. But what I would say is just enjoy it responsibly. Have a fantastic week. And use it as an opportunity to get into the sport. If you're watching this because you like your football bets and you're not sure, there's great racing every day. There's racing. Doesn't mean you have to bet every day, but it's a brilliant narrative to follow. And we're going to come in towards the end of the jump season, but the flat is fantastic. I'll be trying to put a flat tip up every weekend for the pod. We're going to try and get back on the horse, so to speak. We've all had our rest now. April is going to be fantastic for the pod. We've got golf. We're going to get into the Masters. We've got the Grand National meeting, which I'll be doing some tips for. We've got the culmination of a brilliant football season, and then we're going to have to be sort of tennis nonsense through the summer potentially. But we'll find something of value to add, won't we, boys?
We'll find something. Well, look, it has been an absolute pleasure to hear from you, Sam. I'll be putting some of these bets on for sure.
Pressure, lads.
So yeah, if you if these come in, please let us know if you're on. We'd obviously love to see your betting slips, all that kind of stuff. But it has been a pleasure, Boz. We'll also put these out on social media at some point during the Cheltenham week. So if you keep an eye on our Twitter or Instagram or any of these accounts at the @odds pod, you'll see these. So please do that. And I think that's everything. It's been a pleasure, guys.
Bye for now, guys.
Take care, everyone.